I trust you're doing well. You're watching RTV News live from Kigali. I'm Ethan Tashabia. Teachers and security personnel are some of those that were vaccinated on Saturday in the hope that the education sector will not be severely disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have this report.
This Saturday, apart from teachers, members of the Rwanda Defense Forces were also vaccinated against COVID-19. Vaccinations in Kigali took place across the city, where the target groups work from. According to the Ministry of Health, teachers are also at the highest risk of contracting the virus. The ones that were given priority are the ones above 60 years of age, those with chronic diseases, and those with disabilities. The goal is to vaccinate 30% of the 98,000 teachers in Rwanda this weekend. In Kigali City, teachers gathered at Kigali Arena from 3 districts of Kigali to be vaccinated. They say being given the vaccine will motivate them to be better at their jobs.
I'm
very happy. I'm now going to work without any concerns whatsoever or fear of getting the virus, because we meet with so many children that come from different places. We were at high risk of getting the virus, but now we will settle and work as we should. As teachers, teaching children without being vaccinated was not a good idea, but now I won't have anything to worry about. Twagireyezu Gaspar, Minister of State in charge of primary and secondary education at the Ministry of Education, said that teachers need to be assisted in everything to ensure that their work goes on smoothly. Today, we started vaccinating teachers, and this is one of the sites where it happened from in Kigali, but it's ongoing across the country. This program will continue tomorrow as well. Given teachers are among the frontliners as they continue to teach students as well as teach them to protect themselves against the pandemic. Hence why we need to support them to do their job. Vaccinating teachers happened across the country, especially in Kigali, where more than 1,800 teachers were vaccinated, including those working for government institutions, private schools from primary and secondary levels, including university. All people that were vaccinated today are to receive their second jabs after 4 weeks to be fully protected, and all those that were vaccinated are reminded that getting the vaccine does not prevent them from adhering to the COVID-19 prevention guidelines.
Thank you so much, Sam. Now, nationwide COVID-19 vaccination campaign continued this Saturday with the focus on teachers and members of the security forces and elderly citizens, as well as those with underlying health conditions. In the following report, we take a look at how the second day of the Rwanda's vaccination campaign was carried out in various parts of the country.
The second day of Rwanda's COVID-19 vaccination campaign on Saturday focused on educators, security personnel and elderly citizens who fall in the priority risk groups identified by the Ministry of Health. In the southern province, the Rwanda Defense Forces, based in the 4th Division located in Tumba sector in Huye district, received the shot. The commander of this base insists that the fact that they have been placed in the first category of those people to be vaccinated is going to make them safe while going about their daily work. In Gisagara district, primary and secondary school teachers in various institutions also took the jabs. The vaccinated teachers say it is of a great importance because they have always been worried about COVID-19 infection, thanking the government for taking the lead to protect frontline workers and people like educators with the highest risk of contracting the pandemic.
Getting vaccinated gives me the life opportunity to keep doing what I'm doing, because we meet many students, do a lot of contact work. Receiving the vaccine keeps me safe and going.
In the eastern province inside Gwemasha military base, located in Nyagatare sector, COVID-19 vaccines were given to soldiers in Nyagatare zone. Lieutenant Even Shuti, who was in charge of vaccination campaign at the center, said that in general the exercise was successful.
The vaccination exercise was successful because we managed to vaccinate several groups of soldiers.
In Rwanda district, Western province, the elderly widows and survivors of 1994 genocide against the Tutsis and caregivers were given COVID-19 vaccine shots. Recipients of the vaccine commend the government of Rwanda for swiftly rolling out vaccination campaign across the remote areas of the country to protect the target risk groups from the pandemic. We thought it would be difficult for developing African countries to access the vaccine. I thought it was the privileged Western world. I voluntarily came to get vaccinated because that is the only assurance to staying safe from this virus. I urge elderly people like me to get vaccinated because it is safe.
You may have underlying health conditions, but to stay safe, one must get vaccinated.
The exact number of vaccinations on the second day of the vaccination has not been determined, but more than 75,000 people were vaccinated on the first day of vaccination. The government of Rwanda expects to vaccinate at least 60% of the country's population by June 2022.
Thank you, Ghislaine, for that report. Now, Dr. Muneza Civilian, who was the first neurosurgeon in Rwanda, says he's happy to give his contribution to the country's development by caring for the lives of those most afflicted by those also who have had accidents and those with various neuro defects. Gabi Muvunyi tells us more.
Kugira ku ntego y'ikintu niyemeje nkuma nkigezeho nicyo kintu kinezeza bwa mbere.
Dr. Severien Muneza is a 54-year-old neurosurgeon that specializes in diseases that affect the brain as well as the spinal cord. He became the first doctor to treat this type of disease in Rwanda. After he returned to Rwanda from China in 2005, Dr. Muneza says he is living his dream.
Umwuga w'ubuganga yari indoto cyangwa se.
Being a doctor has always been my dream. When I would visit the doctor, I admired their work. When I was 4 years old, I used to make needles with grass and pretend I'm injecting people. I graduated with good grades from high school and had the opportunity in being selected among those who will go to study in China. They were looking for medical students and I had good scores that qualified me to study medicine.
Dr. Muneza says he studied on brain disease because this kind of treatment was not offered in Rwanda.
I specialized in this medical field after doing research by asking people what kind of treatment is missing in Rwanda and found out that neurosurgery is highly needed. I then looked for somewhere to pursue my studies in order to help build the health sector in Rwanda.
On a daily basis, the doctor says he encounters several patients who are very ill and is extremely pleased to see them recover from their illnesses. According to Dr. Muneza, surgery performed in a single patient can take up to 12 hours.
It is joy, starting something and seeing it go well. It is special to change someone's life for better. For example, someone can come to the hospital on the verge of death due to an accident and is treated back to health. There is no way you cannot be happy. There are also times where people with brain tumor come in and with time recover and live for many more years.
Colleagues with Dr. Muneza at Kigali University Hospital, Sehashka, says they learn a lot from him. The first thing I learned from Dr. Muneza is how to take care of your patients. He's very dedicated in what he does and as well as hardworking. He always checks on former patients to see how they're doing. You can even call him any time of the day and he'll come to the hospital. He connects very well with the nurses as well because of his humility. Accident survivors and patients who suffered from head or back injuries testified to the great medical attention they received from him. Prior to 2008, Dr. Muneza was the only doctor in Rwanda that treated brain illnesses as well as spinal cord complications. In 2008, there were only 2 doctors, but the number of neurosurgeons has since increased to 8 doctors in Rwanda. Dr. Muneza says there's a need for more doctors to care for patients who need this kind of treatment because so far at Sehashka, there are more than 300 patients waiting for brain surgery. According to the United Nations World Health Organization, there is a need for at least one neurosurgeon for every 100 patients. Kabi Movunyi, reporting for RTV.
Very inspiring story indeed of Dr. Muneza. Now, the National Bank of Rwanda published the monetary policy and financial stability statement for the second half of the year 2020 this week. According to the monetary report, the interbank rate dropped by 11 basis points to 5.3% in 2020 from 5.46% in 2019. In line with the accommodative monetary policy, leading rate dropped by 14 basis points. In 2020, headline inflation increased by 7.7% on average from the 2.4% recorded in 2019. However, projections indicate that average headline inflation will decline and evolve around the lower bound of 2% in 2021. The Monetary Policy Committee decided to cut the central bank rate repo from 5.0% to 4.5% in 2020 April and has maintained that accommodative stance. The National Bank of Rwanda's monetary policy and financial stability statement also reflected on the IMF projections, which shows that the global economic growth is projected to recover by 5.5% in 2021. According to the global statistics, the sub-Saharan Africa recorded the first recession in 25 years, contracting by 2.6% in 2020 compared to a growth of 3.2% recorded in 2019. In 2021, the region's economy is projected to recover to 3.2%. On Rwanda's part, the national economy contracted by 4.1% in the first three quarters of 2020 compared to an increase of 8.3% registered in the corresponding period of 2019. The BNR report shows that Rwanda's export continues to grow, rising by 13.6% to $1,408.9 million in 2020, up from $1,240.1 million a year earlier. Import value grew by 10.6% to $3,422 million in 2020. Now, in 2020, headline inflation increased by 7.7% on average from 2.4% recorded in 2019. However, projections indicate that average headline inflation will decline and revolve around the lower bound of 2%. Now, the government of Rwanda through BNL issued 7 new bonds and reopened 8 bonds with an average subscription of 154.8%, reflecting sustained investors' appetite and trust in the government of Rwanda's bonds. Also, BNL established the extended lending facility to support banks with liquidity stress. Now, the banking sector continued to hold sufficient capital buffers and liquidity buffers. 15% of the sector total CAR stood at 21.1% against a 15% prudential minimum, while LCR stood at 24.7%. Now, the pandemic increased credit risk though the total outstanding loans structured to COVID-19 at 799.9 billion Rwandan francs. Growth of insurance claims moderated to 6.7% in 2020 from 10.1% in 2019 as lockdown and travel restrictions contained accident-related claims and office-related operational expenses. The pandemic demonstrated opportunities to further digitize insurance business, considering the significant reliance on face-to-face distribution channels such as branches, outlets, brokers and agents, and manual processing and payment claims. The insurance sector remained solvent and maintained capital buffer above minimum prudential requirements. Now, in 2020, mobile banking transactions increased in volume by 183% from 2 million to 6 million and by 205% 24% in value from 85 billion Rwandan francs to 277 billion Rwandan francs of transactions. The number of traditional point of sales, or known as POS machines, increased by 3,477 in December to 4,335 in December of 2020. During 2020, active mobile payment subscribers increased by 13%, while the number of mobile agents increased by 33%. The number of mobile banking users increased by 12%. We cannot go beyond that. Our time is far spent. On behalf of the entire news production team, many thanks for your company tonight. Up next, it's RwandaTV Motor. I know DJ Ronnie and DJ Clean and the entire production team is ready to give you a night of your own to remember. So have fun and enjoy it. I'm Ethan Toshabia. Bye for now.